What if you could get stronger, lift heavier, and gain muscle faster just by making a few simple tweaks to your weekly routine? Well, in this video, I'm going to go over 9 proven things you can do to get stronger faster. So the first super simple change that you can make to get stronger faster is to alternate the weight loads you use between certain time periods and training sessions. If you had to choose only one rep range as the best rep range for strength, there's no doubt you would be better off using heavy weights in combination with a lower rep range. But we don't have to exclusively stick to just one rep range. And it turns out that it's important to train in a variety of rep ranges, even if your sole goal is to get as strong as possible. This is because research shows people who vary up their rep ranges gain more strength and muscle within a set length of time. Even though low, moderate, and high rep ranges can all individually be effective for muscle growth, it seems that switching up your rep ranges provides the biggest advantage. So a simple way to implement this into your routine is to perform a low rep range of something like 3 to 5 reps for 3 weeks, then a moderate rep range of 6 to 10 reps for 3 weeks, and finally a high rep range of 12 to 15 reps for 3 weeks. Then start all over again back at the low 3 to 5 rep range and repeat. The goal should be to lift a heavier weight than the last time you performed each specific rep range. This is just one example of something known as periodization, and doing this can work very well for rapid strength gains. One of the primary reasons that mixing up your rep range is more beneficial is because by having variety, you'll train a broader range of muscle fibers. We have slow twitch and fast twitch muscle fibers, and one is stimulated more with low weight and high reps, while the other is stimulated more with heavy weight and low reps. Also, you're constantly going to be forcing your body to adapt to different rep ranges, which will limit stagnation. Even though you might have gotten stuck if you were just to continuously do the same heavy weight load at a low rep range of 3 to 5 reps, switching up your rep range gives you an opportunity to get stronger at a different rep range where you may have different sticking points that you can work on, and then transfer that increased strength back to that lower rep range of 3 to 5 reps a few weeks down the line, helping you to continuously break through plateaus. Another thing you should be mixing up is bilateral and unilateral exercises. For upper body, in a nutshell, this can be summed up by mixing in dumbbell work with barbell work. The barbell is going to provide certain strength benefits like having both hands on the bar, allowing you to lift a greater overall weight load, while dumbbells will force each side to work on its own and will recruit a greater number of stabilizer muscle fibers. Strengthening these stabilizers, even a small amount, can lead to some pretty big strength gains across the board, so make sure you're not just doing barbell work or just doing dumbbell work. Both have their benefits, and you should use bilateral and unilateral exercises on alternating days during the early portions of your workout when you're still fresh. Keep in mind with legs, performing a barbell squat or a dumbbell squat is still going to be considered a bilateral exercise because both your legs will still be pushing into the ground at the same time. To incorporate unilateral leg exercises, you can do things like Bulgarian split squats, the single leg press, and pistol squats. Now, another thing that has a direct correlation to your strength is your overall mass, specifically your fat-free mass. So one of the most straightforward ways to get stronger is by gaining weight, preferably in the form of muscle. This is because there's a very close relationship between strength and body mass. Research shows this relationship is pretty tight for Olympic weightlifters, and it's even more prominent in powerlifters, where they have an 86 to 95% correlation between fat-free mass and their performance on their power lifts. This means that if you want to gain strength, make sure to also focus on gaining muscle and body weight. This means being in a calorie surplus, doing enough training volume, consuming enough protein, and getting enough rest and recovery. And speaking of a calorie surplus, this is another important tip that can drastically increase your strength. Eat more. Simply going to the gym and trying to improve your lifts isn't enough because your performance at the gym is highly related to your diet. If you don't believe me, fast for a few days and then go try to hit the gym on an empty stomach. You'll find out very quickly that calories help provide the energy you need for heavy lifting and any physical activity in general. Now, there's no reason to overeat either. Anything above around a 200 to 300 calorie surplus is just more likely to lead to unnecessary fat gain. But if you're trying to gain weight or mass, which again goes hand in hand with strength, and you aren't gaining any weight on the scale week after week, you should take that as a sign that you're actually not in a calorie surplus, even if a macro calculator told you that you are. So from there, you should try bumping your calories up by about 150 to 200 calories a day. Then reevaluate over the next few weeks how that affects your progress. Keep in mind, as you bump up your calories, most of the calories that you add on top of your current diet should be in the form of carbohydrates or fat. The reason for this is because you only need about 0.73 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day to maximize muscle growth, especially in a calorie surplus. So as you increase your surplus to gain weight and strength, you don't need to add more protein. Instead, focus on adding more energy sources like carbs and fats. Now, something else that you should do during your workouts to boost strength is to focus on external cueing. In resistance training, there are two main forms of cueing, internal and external. An internal cue may be something like concentrate on contracting your chest as you lift the barbell while bench pressing. An external cue, on the other hand, would be something like focus on pushing the barbell explosively as if you're trying to throw it through the ceiling of the gym. Research has shown that the type of cue that you give yourself while lifting can have a significant impact on your force output and muscle activation. We can refer to one study that put this to the test and evaluated the effects of internal and external cues on maximum force output during a vertical jump test. Participants in one group were instructed to direct their attention to the rungs on the jumping device, which is considered an external cue. Meanwhile, the other group was instructed to focus on their actual fingers that were going to touch the device. This is considered an internal cue. The results showed that those who used external cues jumped higher compared to those that used internal cues. The researchers speculated that this is because external cues increase neuromuscular coordination and efficiency, which leads to heavier lifting or increased power production. Based on this research, the next time you perform a strength movement, make sure you focus on external cues. For example, with barbell squats, you could focus on pushing down as hard as you can into the ground as you blast up out of the bottom of a squat. For bench press, imagine throwing the barbell off your chest towards the ceiling as you explode up. And then for chin-ups, focus on rapidly driving your head over the bar. Let's move on to an underutilized but very effective technique that's been proven to help you get stronger and break through plateaus: using resistance bands and chains. Two studies indicate that doing bench presses with resistance bands leads to more strength gains compared to doing the same amount of volume on the bench press with regular weights. So this doesn't mean that you would just switch to using bands entirely. You would still load up the bar with some regular weights and then add bands or chains on top of that. Many coaches use this to help their athletes get stronger. Famous strength coach Louis Simmons, for example, is someone who's trained lots of world record holders, and he implements band-resisted exercises in many of his workouts. This is because there are two main benefits of using bands and chains. First, they change the resistance curve of the movement, so the lockout portion of the exercise will become harder, which is beneficial for breaking through sticking points in many exercises, especially the bench press, because many people have a sticking point about 2/3 of the way up. The second big benefit is that using bands and chains increases your power and explosiveness. This is because you'll have to explode out of the bottom portion of the movement to make sure that you can overcome the greater level of resistance that you'll experience at the top of the movement during the lockout. Next is a technique you can use at the end of your workouts known as eccentric overloading. Eccentric overloading is a technique where the muscle lengthening portion of an exercise is made harder than the muscle shortening portion. This benefits strength gains because muscles can produce more force during eccentric contractions, especially as you get tired later on in your workout, leading to a more intense stimulus. The reason you're stronger when lowering instead of lifting weights is due to a component of the muscle called titin, which produces passive elastic force during eccentric contractions. Training with machines that have eccentric overloading can be beneficial, but these machines are not commonly found in gyms since they're very expensive. So one alternative is to use a partner to help you up with the concentric. For example, during a bench press, a partner can lift the weight up off of you, and then you can slowly lower it down for a negative contraction. Another alternative is to use the 2-1 technique, where you lift a weight with two limbs, but then only lower it down slowly with one. This can work very well on many bilateral machines, such as the chest press and leg extension. Another way to do this is to cheat during the concentric phase. For example, you could step up on a platform to get your head over the pull-up bar and then perform a negative where you slowly lower yourself down for the eccentric phase. Another example is to use leg drive to push press a barbell over your head and then slowly lower it under your control back down. Keep in mind that eccentric overloading is more taxing on the body and should only be used occasionally to avoid overuse injury. Now, another thing that'll make you stronger if you're an intermediate or advanced lifter is to train more frequently. If you're a beginner, you don't really have to worry about that. Research shows that beginners can likely maximize strength and muscle gains by training each muscle just one time per week. However, once you're past this early stage, which you'll know you're past this stage when you can no longer raise the resistance that you're using every single workout or every other workout. So once you start hitting those initial plateaus, you'll need a higher frequency to maximize strength and muscle gains. For example, one analysis found much better muscle and strength gains with each extra workout per muscle per week, even when total training volume or total work was similar between the groups. Now, whether you should train your chest 2, 3, or even more times per week depends on your situation and how much training volume you do per workout. Some people recover faster from their workouts than others, and some need more sets and reps per muscle per week to stimulate gains. But overall, as an intermediate or advanced lifter, you want to train each muscle at least twice per week. This fact is especially important the longer you train, because the closer you get to your genetic muscle building potential, the more volume you'll need to make those additional gains. Last but not least is something that you should do from the day you start lifting, and that's to optimize your training technique. Before focusing on anything else, make sure your form is correct. This will not only make you stronger, but it'll also help you prevent injuries. Even if you think that your form and technique is currently already good, there are probably still small improvements that you can make that'll help you increase your strength and the weight that you can lift. So make sure you're doing your exercises properly to begin with, because just by correcting mistakes like your knees buckling or your back bending forward during squats, you can improve your strength as a byproduct quite a bit. So those are 9 of my best tips that'll help you build strength faster. There are other simple things you can do as well, such as reducing your stress levels, because studies show that highly stressed people recover up to 2 times slower after exercise. This leads less stressed participants to gain significantly more strength in exercises like bench presses and squats in studies. I also left out things like cluster sets, which may also help with breaking out of strength plateaus without compromising muscle growth. So that about wraps it up. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel, and if you'd like any extra help with setting up your personal diet plan, a workout plan that comes along with a recipe book and a coach, head on over to my website where you can get all of this stuff for free just by sticking to the plan that we set up for you for 6 weeks. To find out more, you can click the link below in the description or head straight on over to my website at gravitytransformation.com. I'll see you guys soon.